Hello, I'm Tracy Dyson of Kent Holistic Practice. As some of you know, I'm a hypnotherapist. I have been since 2004. I absolutely love helping people get over phobias, remove addictions, deal with trauma, relieve themselves from the past and all the things they were carrying. Once we deal, say, with a trauma, the initial cause of it, that person no longer gets triggered. So something happened in their past, therefore they get triggered. That's a natural thing in the mind. Our fight, flight, freeze will fire off. We become hypervigilant to anything in the past that caused us fear. And it's never the event that happened, it's the emotion that was attached to that particular situation or events. So what happens is, in the present time, it's never about now, it's going to fire off a trigger. This is a pattern match that happens, and it's how we survived as a species. It goes back to primitive times. It's the primitive part of our brain, the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, that's firing off fight, flight, freeze. Will it hurt me? Will it kill me? And it's a natural response. But what we can do when we deal with the initial cause, what started that, because you weren't born with that, is something you learned. You learned to be scared of a particular thing. Now what happens is that will fire off to what's called a sloppy pattern match. It will keep firing off. Will it hurt me? Will it kill me? Again, a survival mechanism. Once we deal with the initial cause, there's different ways of dealing with it. Fast phobia cure, for example, rewind technique, the NLP techniques. Once we deal with that, we take the charge of it out. We can actually remove the trauma from the amygdala into the higher cortex of the brain, where there is no emotional firing off. So what happens is, once we feel at peace and accept, feel disassociated from that past event, it just doesn't fire off anymore. It's like that trigger just doesn't come out. So people often say, okay, I was in that situation in the past. They may have got angry. That again is fight, flight, freeze. It's the fight part. It's no longer firing off anymore. And it's like, I just didn't react. And what happens instead? They respond, and they respond calmly to that person or situation, because it's no longer triggering. It's no longer that pattern match anymore, because it doesn't need to. So it's not trying to protect you with fight, flight, freeze constantly. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit also today about addiction. So I help people with smoking, cocaine, all sorts of drugs. It's more or less the same thing. So when we talk about smoking, we look at it as not you, and I want you to know that it's not you. You're not a smoker. And when we say the words I am, they're very powerful. I am this. So what happens is we identify with it. You're not a smoker. You weren't born a smoker. It's something you are doing. That is a big difference. So when people say I'm a smoker, they identify with it. Therefore, they could end up thinking, well, if I stop smoking, I'm going to lose this part of me, because it's not part of you. It's something you're doing instead. You can always stop doing something. There's a big, big difference there. So if you just think about that, it's something you're doing. It's not who you are. Not to identify with what you are doing, okay? But you can always stop what you're doing. It's a behaviour. It's a learnt behaviour. You learnt to do it. You weren't born doing it. Nobody's born a smoker or a drug addict, for example. I know that sometimes, during pregnancy, the babies will have that, but generally we don't smoke as a baby. But that's not what it's about. So it's about communicating with that part of you that really in the past thought it was a good idea to start smoking, taking drugs. You were likely to be a teenager or even a child, and you decided, you made the decision. And often when I say to a client, would you decide to take that drug now as an adult, or start smoking now if you'd never had it before? Would you decide now to do it? 99% would say no. Well, of course not. Logically, this is why people come to me. Obviously, they don't want to carry on taking drugs or smoking or doing whatever they're doing. Of course they don't, because they know the effects of it. They've had years and years of taking these substances that are now causing them problems. And that's only when they start to have the problems, the breathing difficulties or the psychological part or the cravings, that are very uncomfortable, that they decide, I don't want to do this anymore. But that unconscious part is still trying to get them to do it, because it originally seemed like a good idea. It gave them something. It may have been a status, part of being part of a group, feeling grown up. And it's like that program is still running in the background. So what we need to do is bring it out. It's like if I said to you, if you started doing that thing at 14, it's like, would you allow a 14-year-old to make that choice for you? Or whatever age you started, would you allow a child to make your decisions? Probably not. So we have this conflict often with smokers, particularly, there's this one part that says this, another part that does that, the logical and the emotional part, which we have. We have that subconscious and conscious mind. And often it feels like they're in battle. The conscious mind, the logical part, is saying, no, I don't want to do this, it's affecting my health. But that unconscious part, the emotional part, is, but it helps me relax. And it's lying to you. It doesn't help you relax. It's just that you probably associate smoking with a break. Have a break, smoke. Keep doing those behaviour patterns over and over again. Your brain will associate the two together, and that's really what it is. There's nothing in the cigarette or certain substances that is going to relax you at all. In fact, it's a stimulant. So it's definitely not going to help you in that way. And what we have to remember is a lot of these things, a lot of cravings, they're just thoughts. They're just thoughts. You can control your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. And often it's the images we make and the things we tell ourselves that create our reality. So if we're telling ourselves this is really hard to quit, this is, all these negative things. And then we may say positive things about the smoking or the drug, it's given me confidence, give me this, give me this. It's a lie. Ultimately, it's a lie, but it's what we tell ourselves, and your unconscious doesn't argue with what you tell it. So sometimes we need to update the program of what it did give you, that you believe in some way is helping you, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. There's some part of you that believes the smoking, the drugs, whatever it is giving you something. Maybe it's relieving boredom for you, but there's other alternatives. But it's as if your mind becomes blinkered and it can't see other alternatives. It doesn't want you to stop smoking. That part doesn't want you to stop, because initially it gave you a positive experience when you go back. So we need to update the program, remove the program, but we also then need to put a new program in for you. Something's going to work better. Something without, so it's important when you take something away, you put something back in, but something good. So it's not going to be resorting to food, for example, high sugar, that's going to give you a quick dopamine hit. And it's also important just to sit with the feeling. If you have the craving, don't react to it. Respond to it just by sitting with it, because it will rise and it will fall. It will go, just like clouds are not the sky, they're part of it. And it's like your thoughts. They eventually go. They're not permanent. Those cravings are not permanent. And the more you just relax into it, because otherwise we use willpower. Willpower's hard. It means you're fighting against something. You're trying not to do something. And we know with hypnosis, the more you try not to do something, the more it's going to happen. It's like if you try and think of a name that you forgot. The more you try, the more stress you put into it, the harder it becomes. But as soon as you let go, as soon as you forget it, it often pops up in your mind because you're no longer trying to think about it. So sometimes it's the opposite to what we think. You're not in battle with it. You can just sit with the feeling Just see it for what it is. You can become detached from it. The more you relax into the feeling, the easier it is, because it's like riding a wave rather than trying to fight against the wave. Just go with it. Breathe. This helps as well with cravings, is to breathe in for 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because often smokers, when they smoke, will do a different breathing pattern, so they believe that relaxes them. So it's like, if you're breathing out longer than you're breathing in, you're going to activate the parasympathetic part of your nervous system. That's going to naturally calm you down anyway. So instead of smoking or doing the drug, just do the breathing. Become mindful. Just sit with the feeling, and it will pass. And if you add in the breathing, particularly breathing out longer, slow the breath, focus on the breath, you're going to find, even just after a few breaths, you're going to feel that calm, that craving will subside, just like the clouds eventually leave and move and drift out of the sky. They drift away. So if you'd like help with any addiction, if you'd like to understand a bit more, I hope this video has helped you understand that little bit. This is only just a small component of quitting smoking or vaping or any other substance, any other addiction. If you'd like more information, please contact me. I'm on www.kentholisticpractice.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and please share anybody else that may need help. Thank you.